Richard, I am so excited.
Tell me why.
Next year, June 3rd, 4th, 2017, Canada Open.
That's right. Canada Open Karate Championships at the Richmond Oval in Richmond, right beside Vancouver.
It's the Canadian version of the U.S. Open.
You bet. With our happy, smiley, maple syrup sounding faces.
Absolutely. No hockey sticks necessary.
That's right. Tell me, why are you excited? What's the most exciting thing you think about it?
I think the most exciting thing about it is probably just getting a bunch of high-quality elite athletes or even just local regional athletes coming all under one roof and just having, hundreds of athletes all competing to become the first Canadian Open champion.
That's so cool, eh? The first Canadian Open champion.
It's awesome.
It's going to be really amazing. And the buzz is building. It's actually incredible to get all the messages from far and wide coming in, people asking out about it. So make sure you mark your calendars, June 3rd and 4th, 2017. Come up to Richmond in beautiful British Columbia, and let's celebrate the very first Canada Open Karate Championships.
Mark it on your calendar.
As well, don't forget, BC Open is going to be December 10th, also at the Richmond Oval, so it's coming up soon. Next week, the registration forms will be on karatebc.org. And let's not forget, there's a little book kicking around called Sunny Leads Volume 1.
I heard of that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Actually, one of the kids was stuck under the karate front desk, hiding, reading it today, so he didn't have to go train in class. He's like, my dad bought me a copy, but my dad's too engrossed in the copy. It's in my parents' bedroom, and I'm not allowed to go in there, so I'm going to borrow the dojo copy. And I caught him hiding under the desk, and he was reading it. And I'm like, you're really into that? And he's like, I'm really into this. Good. So it's so good. You'll hide under your karate sensei's desk and you'll read it.
It really doesn't get any better than that.
Awesome.
Also, don't forget, you can find us at karatepodcast.com. That's www.karate360podcast.com. As well on our social media, Twitter, Karate360, Facebook, Karate360.
Yeah, and so we've got some people writing in, and they've got some really good suggestions, and we're going to start talking about those in the next show and how we're going to incorporate them.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is episode 4 of Karate 360.
A New Hope. Karate 360, let's start the show. You will kick high, I will sweep low. From local to global, the thing that we love, karate.
Sanrokumaru. Welcome, Karate 360 fans, Karate 360 kids. This is episode 4 of the Karate 360 podcast. And
who are you?
Who am I? I am Kalan Anglos. Who are you?
I'm Richard Mosdell.
You should be getting to know our voices by now if you've been listening along. And again, this is episode 4, and here we are. We're ready to go. Lots to talk about.
That's right. So, Kalan, tell me, anything exciting happened in your week?
Oh, man, what a crazy week. The fitness testing last week was great, really great last weekend. Crazy, though. Absolutely crazy.
British Columbia team did the first karate-specific fitness test. How many athletes did we do? Like 140 in total?
Yeah, I think 100, a little bit more than that. So 124, I think, on Saturday in Vancouver. And then you and I whipped up to Kelowna, and I think we did, what was it, another 12? Yeah, so about 140 athletes in total doing the fitness test. That's awesome.
Karate road trip.
Yeah, no, it was really good. Little bit of mayhem when we first got there, got there as they were just kind of getting ready to go and getting all our equipment ready, and a little bit of mayhem for sure. But once we got it going, it was great. And thanks to all the volunteers that came out. That was awesome. We definitely couldn't have done it without you guys.
University of Victoria Kinesiology Department, undergrad and graduate students, thank you so much for being really great. They didn't even take a break, I think. They just worked straight through.
They just worked straight through. They were awesome. They were so great.
And the thing that I found was quite interesting was not only were we testing, these physical abilities of the athletes, so that this is their start of season testing, but to see people with anxiety.
Yes, absolutely.
See people walk up to us, literally handshaking. Handshaking, going, I don't know. And, performance anxiety in front of others.
Yes.
Worry about what their own result's going to be. Personal pressures, parents yelling at them on the side.
Yes.
That was quite interesting to see.
At one point I looked at an athlete, I said, "You look scared." And she says, "I am scared."
Yeah. And you could do horrible on the fitness test and you'd still be on the team.
Yes, there was no repercussions. But just the act of doing it, I think, for sure, in front of all those people.
Well, we did figure out by the second day that if they weren't going to do their best, if someone was really going to wimp out, they would have to do it again.
That's right.
Yeah. But I think at the end with the beep test, that was quite interesting to see people, dealing with anxiety. And that's a good experience to have because they're going to have to go through that same performance anxiety when they're on the mats.
Absolutely.
Into that type of pressure,
Yeah.
with lots of people's eyeballs on them.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's one of the good things about that whole fitness test battery, as well as especially the beep test, is you get anxious before you go on there.
Yeah, exactly. How many people came up to you and went, "Why are we doing this?"
Yeah, there's definitely a few for sure.
So I'll tell you my Coles Notes version, and then you can tell me the actual version.
Yes, yeah.
But I said we have to measure where you're at, so we know where you're at compared to other people in your age group and in this karate, high performance world. We have to, help tell you how to get better. Once we know your results, tell you how to get better, not just so your performance can get better, but also that you can have better injury prevention.
Yes. Yep. That's a big thing.
We have to motivate you, because when there's a fitness test coming, that maybe will motivate you to train.
Yes.
And those are things I was really thinking about. But then that anxiety, and then people dealing with, performance under pressure.
Yes.
That was such a really clear issue that, so many people were dealing with. People that were talking about a big game before they were going to go do one of the parts of the fitness test, and then didn't really match up to the big talk that they had. And then people were really quiet who just stormed it.
Yes.
Just stormed it.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Now, weren't you telling me that when you fitness test people at the university for VO2 max and are on the treadmills, explain that to me again, how that last few 15 seconds or a minute is like all mental.
Oh, yes.
So explain that to me again, because that was awesome.
Yeah. What we were talking about was when you actually do a gold standard VO2 max test, you throw somebody on a treadmill, you hook them up to a metabolic cart, so it's looking at the amount of oxygen that they're taking in as well as the amount of CO2 that you breathe out. That's what you breathe out all the time. So it's measuring that, and what we can know when we chart all that information on the computer and through the software is we can actually find out what's called your anaerobic threshold, which is when you go from using oxygen as your main fuel source to when you start going to carbohydrates as your main fuel source or different muscle stores. And basically we know that once we get to that point, and we can see it on the graph, once you get to that point, you have maybe 30 seconds until you're done. Then you can just kind of see that they're going down for the count. But the athletes or the people that are being tested in that specific test, the VO2 max test, that can push themselves mentally to get through that, they can maybe last a minute, 2 minutes. Sometimes you see them go after 2 minutes, and after that, it's all mental toughness. And that's kind of what we talked about a little bit with the beep test, which is what we made them do. Now, the beep test is really cool too, because it doesn't necessarily give you a true VO2 max score, but it does give you a predicted VO2 max score, which I think is really beneficial for all athletes, but especially karate that's just starting this fitness testing now. So yeah, and that's the other thing with the beep test is the last, maybe couple stages or maybe the last few minutes for sure, it's all about mental toughness. Like your body is going to want to give up, but you have to be able to push through that. And that's the same as in competition as well. And that's why I really like it, is because it kind of mimics the competition the same way, where you have to have the mental toughness to keep going.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was listening to this other podcast today, sportcoaching.com, and there's a lady, she's a sports psychologist helping, athletes at a really high level. And she said that that is probably the motivation to keep going under pressure and under pain.
Yes.
Is the thing that almost all high performance athletes think about.
Yes. Yeah.
And that, there was a time when people said it's all genetic, and they thought, you just ride on your talent. And she'd done some work with Michael Jordan, and he had said, he'd worked really hard, because obviously he got cut from the basketball team in high school and stuff, famous stories like that.
Yeah.
So he worked really hard, became an NBA player. And then he said for a while, like for, a month or a couple months or something, he was just going to kind of coast on his talent and don't do any extra practice, or don't really push very hard. And suddenly he was dropping to like the bottom of the rankings, and nothing was happening. He realized, I have to push myself harder than everybody else.
Yes.
Because that talent only comes out when I work really hard, to the point where my body says stop, but my mind keeps going.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
when you look at top UFC fighters and guys at that caliber, they always talk about training when they're in their training camps and that kind of stuff. They're training harder than they would ever have to do in an actual competition or in an actual fight, because they want to, as they put it, they want to go through hell before they even get there. So they're just absolutely busting in training, and then so by the time they get to the actual fight or the performance or whatever it is, they're way over prepared for it, and they're ready.
And I think you see that with the regular non-competitive person who's training karate.
Oh, absolutely.
When, let's say they're practicing the kata and they're getting ready and the class ends, and they're gone. But then someone else will stay and they'll do it again. And they'll do it again.
Yes.
And they won't be happy with it. And they'll do it again. And you think this person's obsessed. I'll watch them after class. They'll do it again. And they'll do it again. And you can see them practicing in the parking lot. They'll do it again. And their body's burning. And they'll do it again. So yeah, it's interesting. So I thought, yeah, I think that worked really well. By the way, you really well prepared. That was awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you look like
I always try to be.
Yeah, absolutely. You look right in your element. So we've got this weekend another batch here on Vancouver Island that we'll be testing.
Yep, I think we got about 20, 25 athletes somewhere in there that we test this weekend. So it'll be good to see. And one of the things that we're going to have is we're going to have not only the scores for everybody across the province of BC, but we'll also be able to look at the different zones and the different divisions and kind of how those all stack up. And then once we have, countrywide data going forward, then it'll be really fun to kind of compare all that.
That's awesome. This is I think like we said, these exercises that you were testing them with, and we can put them on the website. Yes, and a link to them. They're so commonly used everywhere, but it's the recipe, the way that they were used.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things too that came out of this. Is I had a lot of parents, a lot of athletes saying, okay, we did this test, upper body power, lower, whatever it is. I said, well, how do we prepare for this? How do we get better at this? And I think that's another benefit of just doing fitness testing in general is you can see what type of parameters are essential for, in this case, karate performance, which will give you then an idea of how you can train to be better in karate performance. So I think that's something that came out of this too that people are starting to realize.
That's great. Yeah, another fantastic week. So, when I think about, we came back from this road trip, traveled 500 kilometers or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And immediately I got back to the club, and it's like people were basically lined up at the door going, okay, tell me more about karate. What's going on with karate? Tell me about karate. But this week I've been starting to more interview people why they want to come in the club.
Sure.
I had someone ask me just today, I said, I want to come in and just do self-defense. And came in with their teenage daughter and said, my daughter's getting older. I really want to be able to defend herself, and she really needs to know how to defend herself. And I said, okay, have you had actually an attack? Have you survived an attack? Oh no, it's never been an attack, but we've got to get ready for one. And then, so that was they're really coming towards karate with a sense of fear.
Yes.
Their motivation is fear.
Sure. And
I said, just for me, I really want to help them out if they want to get better at self-defense. But I also said that it'd be great to change the motivator.
Yes.
So that they could come with curiosity.
Yes, absolutely.
And the daughter had she was very polite, but she had no interest in any sport whatsoever. Team sport, nothing, anything. I said, well, why don't you come here with some curiosity? And so try a free class with me and try a free class with a couple other places. And I gave her a couple other suggestions. I said, there is no pure, perfect martial art defending style that you can do.
Sure.
I said, you may want to train stand-up and wrestling and ground and, whatever. But, training for self-defense can be especially if you're that fearful, it was almost like she was training for the Olympics.
Right.
And I said, okay, so this is obviously really important to you. And to the mom, it definitely was. And to the daughter, it seemed like, so what are you thinking in terms of training wise? We can only put in an hour a week.
Well, that's a problem.
That's a problem. So, okay, so you want to train, you're really worried about your personal safety, and you really want to train. You realize it's like training for the Olympics, but you only want to put in an hour a week.
Yeah.
So I took them over we have a poster on the board, and it's like, okay, for Karate Canada, work with Sport Canada, it's if you really want to train and get good at karate at your age, she was 12, so 11s to 15s, it's 6 to 7 hours a week.
Yes.
Yeah. That's not even to be a competitor.
Yeah.
And then it said, the other sports, you're supposed to do 3 to 4 hours a week. And then it says 2 hours a week of PE. And she goes, I don't do any other sports. And I said, that could be walking along the beach with your mom, walking the dog. She goes, ooh, that sounds cold. So, what people think they're coming into and what they're actually coming into, I have to be more careful as the club gets bigger and more popular, that they can get out of the club what they're looking for as long as we offer what they're looking for.
Sure. Yes.
If we don't offer what they're looking for, then I have to pass them along.
Yes.
I
had an individual come to me a couple of weeks ago to train. He wanted to do some training, and he comes in, he's very enthusiastic, and I knew he came from UVic, and he said, I want to train to be a UFC fighter. And I said, okay, that's great. I said, well, what kind of martial arts experience do you have? Well, I boxed for about 6 months, 3 years ago. I said, okay. And how old are you? And he said, 26. I said, okay, we're starting a little late. So, well, how many times a week do you want to train? Well, let's just start with 1 to 2 times per week. I said, okay, well, I'll train you. We'll see what we can do. Yeah. But he's really enthusiastic. So that's great. But yeah, I think just kind of knowing not only what you're getting into, but also knowing kind of what maybe to expect is also good. But curiosity is always good to come into the dojo with.
Well, I think John Kavanagh's club, he said he's in Ireland, 700 members now.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of those people are UFC fans. They want to come in, but they're working out just for recreational, like anybody in a martial art club, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to come in and go, I want to be a UFC fighter, and I'm 26 years old, and I've never been in a match. You're going to have to really, really work hard.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. I mean, you can't tell them, well, that's probably not going to happen because you don't want to crush their hopes or anything. But, you just go through it.
Well, what we try and say is 3 years.
Yes, that's right.
Right?
Yeah, I really like this model, yeah.
You do? I mean, I'm not just saying it and everyone's like, oh, he's going on about the 3 year thing.
No,
again.
when you first said it, it made sense to me. Maybe you can just elaborate real quickly on that.
Okay, so for the first 3 years, we think about if someone wants to be really a real competitor, we say, okay, the first 3 years, you're trying to make your state, your region, or your provincial team. The first year, you're just competing and trying to get used to the system.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? Your second year, you have to try and win your first match in whatever you're doing. And if in your third year, you should be in the medals, if not at the top. If you win medals in the first or second year, that's great, but that's ahead of schedule.
Yes, yeah.
Right? And it depends on your competitors. It depends how many people are in your division. It depends on the draws and that. And not talking about training right now. We're just talking about results,
Yeah.
The more important thing then is figuring out process, not worried about the results, but let's get into the process. So it's all about teaching process, about how many times you be in the dojo training. And some, really you're training 5-6 days a week in the dojo and in the gym and doing personal training. Next 3 is lets you get to the national level. And the first year you can experience it, hopefully win your first match. Second year, you're in your top 4. Third year, you win your division.
Yes.
Then in that year, you transition to being an international athlete. So you win your first match, you go to your first 4 or 5 international competitions. In your second year, you start to medal. And in your third year, you win the world championships.
Yes.
9 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 10. So the first day you step on the mat as a high performance athlete, you're 9 to 10 years away from winning a world championship.
Yeah. And I really like that model, and it completely makes sense to me. And I mean, when I first started competing on the BC team way back in 2006, I almost wish somebody had walked that through me, because my first year I didn't do so good. But, I was just kind of taking it all in. And then the second year I medaled. I actually got third. And so right away I was thinking, great, we're going to the national team. We're gonna start medaling in international tournaments. And it's like, well, okay, let's just slow down a little bit. So no, I really like that model. I think it's logical for sure. And you have to fall in love with the process to get success, really.
No, exactly. And then as a coach, it lets me know that the person's they have to put in the first year.
Yes.
Just to see that they can actually do it.
Of course.
You know? And then after that, we can start working with them. If they can't put through that first year, then we know we're not going to be working with them.
Yeah.
So, in some ways, it's, the same with the people who are not competing, just training in the club. Those people too, I want to see consistency. When I see the consistency of them coming, then obviously they're going to improve and they're going to get better. Today, and here's a shout out to Kaz Hashimoto Sensei in Vancouver.
Oh, Kaz
Hashimoto Sensei, how are you? Over in Odokan Dojo on Kingsway in Vancouver. We had a great conversation today because he was, I'm always looking to people to see, especially who are ahead of me and before me. And he said, they train really strong spiritual karate, right? Like this is, what they do is really important. They're training hard. His students are like his sons and daughters to him. And then if they go out and compete and they do well, that's great. But if they don't, that's great too.
Yes, yeah.
And they end up doing quite well. But they don't put the result, the emphasis on the result. They put it on the process of training in the dojo. Because the moment you stop competing, what do you have to come back to?
Yes.
So it's a great thing with karate is we offer a lot. And then for the people who, when they do stop, they can become coaches and officials and administrators and promoters. And even if they're not competing, they can help out and do all those things too. But yeah, more about the process. Well, I heard the definition for Tiger Mama. Have you heard Tiger Mama?
No.
So Tiger Mama, you and your kids,
like
you'll hear
Cougar Mama?
Sorry, wrong podcast. Tune in with me after midnight when you can hear the Richard Mosdell show. It's a book that came out, and it's like Asian moms who are like helicopter parents who are like right on top of their kids, and they have to study, and it's all about results. If you don't get the A, they're gonna, it's all about, you must get the A, you must get the next A, you must get the next A, you must become a doctor, you must make a lot of money, then you must buy a big house so I can live there. And if you don't get the A, I'm gonna burn all your stuffies. So that's not process, that's results.
Yes, yeah.
It's important that we're process driven. Man, tons of stuff.
Lots going on, that's for sure.
That's awesome. Well, let's get into some global news.
Yeah, Karate Global News. So last weekend for us was the fitness testing. For the international karate world was the K1 Okinawa
Premier League WKF K1 Okinawa tournament. Happened last weekend, which was October 1st and 2nd, in the homeland of karate. 31 countries, 323 athletes from 4 continents.
It was the 9th K1 tournament of the year.
That's a lot. This is the final one, right?
This is the final one. And just a few weeks before the World Championships. It's
amazing. So, which athletes should we dive into here? Because Japan was sweeping everything.
They were sweeping everything. Yes.
Yeah.
There was only 1 female division and 2 male divisions where the gold medalist was not from Japan.
Oh wow! So who do we have here to look at?
So we have Kyuna Ryo.
Ryo Kyuna. World champion,
and the proclaimed man to beat for the World Championships. He won this K1 tournament. He also won the last K1 tournament as well, and I believe he was the last year's world champion.
Yep, 2014.
Yep, and he is now currently ranked 4th in the WKF overall standings in kata. So he's a kata athlete. He won gold at the K1 Premier League Okinawa this past weekend, and yes, now he's ranked number 4 in WKF, where prior to this tournament he was ranked 8th. So he's jumped in the rankings and ready for the World Championships.
That's amazing. He's a do stylist.
Okay.
Like Matsumoto Sensei, who made famous Anan,
yes.
right?
Yep.
From Nagoshi. Now, I couldn't quite figure out the name of his dojo. It might be a Duhokukai. So someone can write that in and spank me and if I got that one wrong, but I think that was the name. And his dojo's in Nagoshi and Okinawa. Would you say he's ranked 4th in the world after this tournament?
He is ranked 4th right now in the WKF rankings for male kata, yes.
So he's going in pretty strong into the World Championships in Linz in the end of the month.
Yes. The rest of the rankings in that male kata, in 3rd, Antonio Diaz from Venezuela. 2nd is from France, and this is, so again, I apologize about this name. Vu Duc Mindak from France is ranked 2nd, and 1st is Damien Quintero from Spain.
Wow.
So there's your top 4 for male kata.
I noticed that there are some of the European athletes or Middle Eastern athletes like Sarah Cardin from Italy, current world and European champion in -55, didn't medal at the K1 tournament.
No, not even, I don't think in the top 5.
And Ingrid Suchankova, she got a silver, and she's also current world champion or silver medalist. And then also there was a Tarek Hamedi from Saudi Arabia.
Right, yes.
Junior cadet U21 world champion. I think he won this one, right?
Yes, yeah.
So another person to watch, people up and coming.
Yes, and one person that we know that wasn't at this tournament, didn't compete, was Araga.
Araga did not compete.
Yes.
Took a break.
Getting ready for the World Championships.
That's right. Now in the women's -55, there was a girl, her name is Miki Tatebe, and she got 3rd. And I talked to one of her coaches on the phone. I'm giving a shout out to Rich Hesselton. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
Hey, Rich.
He's a coach at Takushoku University in Japan. And I've got to unpack that description a little bit for you. First, Rich and I used to be training partners in Japan. And he is with the 5th Dan in the JKA, Shotokan style. Takushoku University is really famous Takudai because sort of this part of the center of the birth of JKA karate after Funakoshi was out of that university. So very, very famous and very strong. I think it's like 2 hours west of Tokyo
Okay.
to get there. Rich went to Japan when he was in his late teens and started training and really wanted to win the JK National Championships. I think they call it, is it the Funakoshi Cup or the Shoto Cup? But there's the JK National Championships.
Okay.
And so he's been trying for like the last 20 years. He's come as close as 30. He's a big, strong guy. We'll put a video of him up on the website. And he actually went to that university for his undergrad and captained the team in his final year, which is a massive accomplishment.
Sure. Yeah.
And so Rich said that she's from that university. I don't know where she's from originally, but she's from the university, and so obviously quite talented. I'm sure her ranking right now is 73rd in the world. She's tied with 4 other people. But Takudai is really, really, like, when I say famous, it's famous. It's one of those places where you train really hard in your middle school and high school, and then hopefully one day you get to go there.
Okay. Yeah.
And if I recall correctly, Kanazawa Hidekazu sensei, who's famous for being in the JK and then leaving to create his own Shotokan Karate International Federation, SKIF, he also came out of there. Because Kanazawa sensei was the first person to win the Japan National Championships way back in the 60s. And so there's a lot of famous people have come out of Takudai. There's a lot of controversial history to have come out of there, and reasons why the club had to close way back in the past. But Rich and the other, the director, the kantoku, and the head coach that they're working with, they've got a really, really good team. So and they're listening to this because one of the things they're really interested in is the fitness testing and stuff.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna definitely get you talking to Rich, and also we're gonna go visit when we're in Japan in March.
Great.
So Miki Tatebe, gonna be watching to see if she rises in the rankings and makes Takushoku even more famous. All right, on to the next segment.
So I know that there is some new information. Last week we were talking a little bit about the Paralympics and the 5 rings. And the question that I posed to you last week was karate going to be in the Paralympics?
That's right. And one of our fantastic listeners, hey, Pete Williams, way up there in Saitama, Japan, sent me a message and said, no.
No, it is not.
No, it is not, boys.
Yeah.
He said that actually Arakawa Sensei has been included in some sort of research, whatever group. But it looks like 2020, it hasn't actually. I went out and checked. It's not on the list. Taekwondo is added, but karate is not. Sailing and 7-side football, they were taken out. There's actually some interesting Paralympic sports in there.
Yes, yeah.
For use of the wheelchair, and there was one other one that I was looking at. But unfortunately with karate, it's not in this round. And I'm not sure yet. Maybe the AWOD athletes divisions for karate, athletes with disability, it's not as developed yet.
Sure. Yes.
So they're looking at 20 and 24.
Right. Yeah. So no Paralympics for 2020 for karate, but hopefully by 2024.
That's right. The Olympics is on like the 2020 Olympics is on schedule with everything except when they first announced the games, they were going to have make this like a really compact games. And now as the preparations, and for sure they're going to be prepared way ahead of schedule. Now things are like, no, we're going to put sailing like 300 kilometers away, and we're going to put something else 400 kilometers away, and it's spreading it all out. So, things will change as it goes along.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Next segment. Is Chuck Norris really Chuck Norris?
Is he even human?
You know what? I've been trying this, asking kids who's their favorite martial arts superhero.
Who's your favorite? Who's your childhood favorite?
Oh, my child. Well, everybody loves Bruce Lee, of course. Of course. Bruce Lee. I loved the Karate Kid movie.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Miyagi Sensei. But I do remember Chuck Norris movies, but Chuck Norris movies they weren't like a Bruce Lee movie.
No.
But then Bruce Lee movies were like passing around VHS tapes and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. How about yourself? What's your favorite action hero?
Growing up, Bruce Lee was always my favorite. Enter the Dragon was always
Enter the Dragon.
Yes, I really used to like that. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bloodsport, probably one of my favorite martial arts movies of all time. Of course, Karate Kid as well. I'd say probably one of those.
That's
guys.
Fantastic acting when he does the splits.
Yes.
It's painful, Sensei. Don't hurt me anymore.
Or when I was young and teenager or whatever. Jet Li was just kind of getting famous. So I don't know actually what his martial arts background is, but obviously in Hollywood he became kind of the guy when I was coming up too.
Yep. You know what, when the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out, and that's when they really were showing off the wire work. I was like, this is awesome. And then every martial art movie after that had wire work. So zipping along.
Yeah. So what did the kids say?
Nobody knows who Chuck Norris is.
No, of course
not. A lot of them are, they talk about like a Pokemon character who's like a martial artist. There's a Pokemon karate character called
Machop.
Machop, is that it? Machop?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, my son was telling me and he showed it to me. He's in a karate uniform.
Maybe it's a different one. My Pokemon is a little dated.
Okay. Yeah. Karake? There's also a judo one. It's a don't get him angry, he'll chop you. That's what it said. Okay, we got a new segment. Got a new segment to introduce. Sojitsu. Karate management. There's Gijitsu, which means technique, and Sojitsu means management. Okay. You're in a really good karate organization when your Sojitsu and your Jijitsu are like yin and yanging out and doing really, really well. But as like everybody knows, sometimes your Sojitsu, your management, the management system of your club or your style, and your Gijitsu, your technique, aren't in harmony.
Sure, yes.
So I wanted to introduce this new segment. It's kind of like behind the curtain of the karate world, of the martial arts industry, really.
Yeah.
When you think of a definition for a martial art club, do you think there could be multiple?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think off the top of your head?
A martial arts club, you obviously have traditional martial arts like karate and judo and that kind of thing, but you also have martial arts that aren't rooted in any tradition, and they're just people, they just got a black belt from, whether it was from traditional martial arts or not, but they're just kind of teaching whatever they sort of feel, not really rooted in any tradition. So there's martial arts studios like that, and then there's also, all different types from jiu-jitsu to judo and karate and all that kind of stuff.
Do you ever see have you ever watched one of the YouTube videos where it's like a jiu-jitsu wrestling competition, and they find out that the person wearing a black belt isn't a black belt, and then like they kind of overdo it. They're like, they're going to punish him because he's wearing a black belt and he hasn't got a legitimate black belt.
No, I haven't seen that video.
There's a couple of them going around where, how dare you put on a black belt if you didn't actually earn it and train it, and you can't do the techniques that are black belt. Because it's different in the jiu-jitsu world, because in karate world, you can't really compare belt to belt.
Sure.
In time, maybe in the dojo. But what I think it's really important for people to think about I think there are different areas of karate clubs, and both people who participate in them, people who start them, people who want to start them, and people who are looking for them. It's good to have that, have an awareness of what you're walking into.
Sure.
Because obviously, if you're like the instructor half the time it's 2 minutes from your house. That's why you want to go there.
Yes. Yeah.
But I think if you think about martial arts clubs in 3 categories. So one is like at the community center or the recreation center, and a lot of times those are, even though they might get paid something, they're really volunteers who are teaching karate and on a gym floor or a studio floor. And it seems like every community center or recreation center or church hall has some sort of martial art club.
Yeah, that's how I came up.
Okay.
Yeah, it was in a recreation hall.
Yeah, and my very first club I had was in a community center, and especially in a community center where it's like baby making central. Everyone's having kids in the suburb, and they gotta put your kid in karate and swimming and soccer, and you can all do it through the recreation center. Yeah. And that's great. That it has a purpose and it introduces a lot of people. I used to get frustrated at training and then teaching at a community center because the floor would be sticky.
Yes. That was always our issue as well. Sticky or just really, really dirty.
Really dirty.
Basketball or whatever.
Yeah, you go out and sweep it.
Yeah.
Really wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And you're bounding in there like, okay, we want to really do karate and have a karate, atmosphere and way we're going to train. And then, somebody would bounce in and go, can we play volleyball now?
Yeah.
So I really respect those instructors who've been able to keep it going, keep that type of club going, that type of atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Then I think the second level or second type would be a mainstream karate club where they have their own space and they're connected to the bigger mainstream world, whether through their province or their state or their country, or even, obviously connected to Japan. And, they offer their type of training, hopefully quality training. And there are not only are they training in the club, but they're a doorway, a window to all kinds of other things.
Yes.
You know, so if someone says, I want to go to Japan. Great, we'll help you. I want to train to go to the national champions. Great. I just want to train and get my black belt. Fantastic. You know? So, and that's, I think, the type of club that we strive to be, is that sense of purpose. Because we have our own place, we can, you know, when I was thinking of opening my own place, I thought I need 36 mats, 6x6. I thought I can teach in a 6x6 space. And now we have 3 rings that are 7x7 plus extra. So 36 by 36 would have been just like Kyokushin, Sanchin, Kata, or whatever, right? You know, like one heavy bag. But I just remember saying, like, I just felt like, if I only had 36 mats, I could do it. I could pull it off. We'd just be classes of 5. We could, you know, but it was that sense of identity.
Yes.
You know, if you had a space. And I think the next category of club is like more of a commercial club where there's no they're really focused on doing what they do.
Yes.
But there's no connection to outside of what they're doing. You know, that they're kind of an insular world. And those ones, what I think was surprising is they tend to charge the most.
Okay.
You know? So I think they're more of a commercial club. Now, I know some people out there would, at any of those categories, sometimes they do a different definition. They go, we're really traditional and we know what we're doing. And this other one is McDojo.
Yeah, McDojo.
McDojo, right? And, you know, there's even websites dedicated to explaining what a McDojo is. But, you know, you go to another martial art and they think, well, your whole martial art is McDojo, right? And so I think anything where it gets people off the couch and they get out there and do it, they're passionate about it. Everything has the same value.
Yes, yeah.
Right? But I think as you get older in the karate, you have to really think about what you want for you and what you can get out of it and where you want to put your energy in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's, in terms of managing how to do a karate club, that's how I kind of see the world. Some people see it as, you know, we're really doing traditional karate, or we're really doing sports karate, or we're doing open karate to music, like kata to music,
yeah,
you know, and flashy uniforms and stuff. That is a different way. I think that's another conversation. That's a different way of classifying stuff.
Sure.
Because, you know, karate itself, just by saying karate, you're doing a modern martial art. It's called gendai. It means modern, instead of koru, which is old. And the koru people are holding swords and they don't do any belt tests, just think we're crazy, you know. Like, and then the gendai people out there are kicking and punching and sweating and, you know, making a lot of noise out there in tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, and so both have their place.
Yeah. So like a three-tiered kind of approach to it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I like it. Now, I know or I understand that you have a officials tip this week, and this is a very well thought out, and you really dived into some of the research for this week's officials tip.
I took hours and hours and thought about this one, and you know, especially after getting some feedback from people.
Sure.
I thought the first thing we have to talk about in terms of officials tip is that you have to read the rules, and maybe go out there and get your entry-level officials ticket.
So you're saying that actually becoming an official?
Yes. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, okay, so let's talk about tips for officiating, right? But it's hard to talk about tips for officiating if you haven't read the rules.
Sure, yes.
You know? So two things came up with this. On the weekend, we got all these athletes, and as a team manager, I'm getting tons of emails, right? And a lot of these questions go to, well, you know, what do the rules say? Or when can I do this? Or what's on the schedule? Or how many katas am I allowed to perform? Or, you know, everything is in the rules.
Yeah.
Or the team handbook.
Read the book.
Read the book. I remember hearing the story about Tommy Morris, who helped create the original rule list when he was the chair of the WUCO, which became before WKF, referees committee. And I heard that if you go into his official seminar and you asked a question of what something that was blatantly written about in the rules, he would just tell you, you know, go back to your hotel room, read the rules, and when you're done, you can come back, you know?
With the answer.
With the answer.
Yeah.
And if you asked him a question to an interpretation of the rules to show that you've read them and you were thinking about them and how to apply them, he would explain it to you. And anybody... if I'm off on this story, it's somebody else who said this, please let me know. But this is how it was described to me. So on the weekend, I had that same experience. Kids coming up going, when's the next fitness test? When's this? You've got to read the website.
Yeah.
If you want to be on the team, the first thing you have to do is be able to read and be able to read the website. And I think with officiating, it's the same thing. You have to know the rules.
Yes.
You have to read the rules. The other one is, and this can happen on the weekend too, is people coming up and complaining about referees.
Mm.
And then I was listening to a podcast today with a sports psychologist who said that it's really important not to be able to process what your performance was and only point to the referee.
Yes, of course.
You know? So 2 things. You should go become a referee and get your referee's ticket. And I remember the first time I got mine. It was done in Japan. I had to do it because the unspoken rule was in the Tokyo High School Karate Federation where the head coaches were all officials and the directors were all officials. And only the graduates, like the alumni, so anybody graduated from high school and then came back, they would sit in the corner chair and it almost never put out a chair because they just felt that once you got to the tournament, you could coach yourself. You should be smart, and this is Budo, and you should go out there and do what you're supposed to do. But the university alumni would come back and they would coach. You would have to go out and be an official. So if we're going to get into officiating tips, we got to talk about, let's go out and read the rules, and let's make sure that we've got our initial ticket. And actually here on Vancouver Island on October 22nd, people can go and learn and go to the entry-level officials seminar.
Yes.
Yeah, in Duncan. So that's my officials tip. Read the rules and try and get your entry-level ticket.
Yes.
And then we can really dive into this conversation.
No, absolutely. And it makes sense not only to be able to talk about it, but also from a competitive standpoint as well. You need to know what the rules are, not only to know what your boundaries are, but also to know what are the judges looking for and exactly how are you scoring these points, or how are you kind of doing this, or how are you doing that? Because it's going to only help improve your actual performance if you know the actual rules inside and out, and you actually know how to look at it, and you actually have experience as a referee.
Yeah, and parents too. You could say read it, and a lot of parents are busy, but with your kids, you should ask them about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Like in our juniors classes, we talk about what the rules are, and not because they're just karate competition rules, but they also promote a sense of safety.
Yes.
And also promote a sense of respect for the other person. Because once your technique passes their guard, why do you have to break their nose or break their ribs or right? That's why what we're doing in karate for kumite is sundome, which means like point sparring, not full contact. Yeah. Even parents asking what the kids what the rules are and how they are, and reading them themselves. I mean, they're not that long, so. And then talking to them, this gives them something to talk about over dinner, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it'll make you, especially when you look at kata, it'll make you a better traditional karate practitioner if you look at how they judge kata, because it's the fundamentals is the most important thing. So if you haven't read the rules and you haven't got your entry-level official certificate, either way, you're not going to understand what are the fundamental things that we're looking for.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my officials tip. Read the rules.
Become an official.
And if you look at people, like we talked with this, Namiki Sensei said that Shimpanru, becoming an official, is another study of karate. You look at people who are doing it all the time. They have notebooks. Mm-hmm. They write stuff down. They print the rules. They write stuff in the rules. So the next thing I want to talk about on the next podcast is kata and the ways that you look at it, and conformity and stuff, and then what we can do in terms of Olympics. Options maybe the Olympics can look at for karate in the Olympics and how they can judge it and give more of a metric score.
Yes.
So that's for a future podcast. Thank you very much. Shimpanru and our officials tip.
Okay, so this week, what I wanted to bring in terms of our academia talk and a little bit of stuff like there. So obviously through UVic, I've been diving into a lot of the karate research and kind of doing my lit review right now and all of that. Now, one thing that...
What's a lit review?
A lit review. So basically, lit review, that's a great question. Lit review is just basically when you look at all the scientific literature on a specific topic and you just review it all. You do maybe a meta-analysis or whatever it is of all the research that's been done, and then you just kind of put it all into your own piece of paper and piece of document, and then just talk about it and kind of what did they find, and just basically looking at what's already been done. In order to do new research, you have to know what's already been done.
Yeah, so this is a shout out to Robin. Hey, Robin.
Hey, Robin.
How's it going? So, Robin, what that means is everybody who's studied and written about a certain topic that you're studying, you read about it to find out what other people have said.
Yes.
And then see if there's something you can add to it.
Yeah. And something that, so just kind of talking a little bit about that, something that has becoming more into the research, not for karate specifically, although I did find a research from Brazil on this, is something called heart rate variability. And a lot of the research in terms of heart rate is a great way to monitor your training status. And what they used to always say before, and in the research is say, you can use your resting heart rate. So you take your resting heart rate in the morning and you find out kind of what your baseline resting heart rate is. And if your resting heart rate goes up that morning, then you say you're only supposed to train at whatever, 60, 70% of your VO2 max or your 100% training intensity or whatever it is. But this new kind of, this new scientific research that's coming out is called heart rate variability, which goes one step further. So basically what heart rate variability is, and it's actually something that we're going to be looking at when we test the athletes this weekend, is it looks at the time between your heartbeats, not necessarily how many beats you have per minute. And
the sniper moment.
The sniper moment, that's right, that's right. And what you're looking at is the length of time, basically, among other things. There's different variables that we don't really have to get into. It's quite scientific. But looking at the time between those two beats, and what it'll actually tell you is how stressed you are, or how much stress hormones you have in your body, or how calm you are. And we can actually use this heart rate variability to predict. I mean, right now they're using it to predict sickness in a lot of the older people, and in athletes they're using it where they can actually look 3 days ahead and say, okay, your heart rate variability now is this. Well, 3 days from now you're only going to want to train at 60%, because it's actually, they're saying it's about 2 to 3 days in advance. So it's really good.
Wow.
It's really interesting. It's going to be something that almost all, actually there's just Misha Tate, the UFC fighter, was just on the Joe Rogan podcast talking about heart rate variability and how they use that to kind of monitor their training intensity for each day.
How would you check that? Like, how could you do it?
So it's a heart rate monitor, and I actually have the system in the car. There's a heart rate monitor. It looks just like a regular heart rate monitor, but when you put it into a specific software, it just gives you all these other, your frequencies of your actual heart rate. It gives you an ECG profile of a training session, and you can just read that, and just kind of knowing what it says, you can actually find out how stressed you are. You can actually pretty much determine how much stress hormones you have in your body, and if you should be training at 100% of your intensity that day, or for only 60%, or maybe you're so stressed you shouldn't be training at all that day. So yeah, it's really kind of revolutionary stuff that a lot of sports are starting to include now, and it's something that for karate athletes I think will be really good to use, not only for that recovery aspect, but everybody always kind of asks, well, is it best to be really amped up before a tournament, or is it best to be kind of cool and calm and collected and kind of relaxed before you go in? And while everybody is different, what we can do with this kind of research is we can actually kind of look at some of the top athletes and see where their heart rate variability profiles are prior to a tournament and how they did at that tournament. And once we have enough of that data, we can kind of pull some things out of that.
Wow, that's really interesting.
It's really cool, yeah.
I guess that would also work for people who are training in the regular dojo, just day to day.
Absolutely, yep, day to day. They say the best time to take it, just like heart rate, resting heart rate is in the morning. So you just strap it on for about 10 minutes and chill out, and it'll give you your heart rate variability.
Who has time to chill out in the morning?
Yeah, right, no kidding. Yeah, so that's just kind of not so much academia that we've looked at, but academia that we're going to be going towards for sure.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, when I know people will come in, sometimes they'll wear heart rate monitors when they're working out. So what are they looking for?
When they actually have a heart rate monitor.
Yeah, just someone training in the dojo.
Yeah, basically they're looking, obviously heart rate gives you your beats per minute. So it does tell you, most people know their max heart rate, and there's simple equations that you can do to kind of predict your maximum heart rate. So when you wear a heart rate in the dojo, or when you go to the gym or whatever, you can kind of see at what intensity you're training at. So are you training at 80% of your maximum heart rate? Are you training at 90% of your maximum heart rate, which would be quite intense? Or are you just kind of training at 60% of your maximum heart rate? And what's kind of cool about just doing heart rate, not necessarily heart rate variability, is you can actually look at your oxygen consumption as well, strictly just from heart rate monitors, because we know that heart rate and VO2, which is the amount of oxygen you consume, go up linearly. So as your heart rate goes up, the amount of oxygen you consume goes up as well. So you can kind of see or predict where you're training in terms of your % max intensity.
Wait, stop the press. Hold the trains. Hold on a second. don't leave the station. So if I've got somebody who's training for their black belt,
Yes.
and they're cruising, they're on like, they're stuck in third gear, but they think, I'm going to pass this black belt. I'm awesome. So their personal perception of themselves is, I've got this thing in the bag. And people on the outside who are actually going to be sitting on the DAN testing council or committee are going, that person's got no hope. Because they're not even breaking a sweat.
Yeah.
So motivation. Can we, obviously with their permission, slap a heart rate monitor on them and let them train in a regular class and go, well, did you think you gave it maximum effort, as Deadpool would say?
Yeah.
So use maximum. Are you putting your maximum effort in today? And they go, yeah, I did. And then we can go, all right, let's have a look at this thing.
Absolutely, you can. Yeah. You know, in training, you can get your true value of kind of what your maximum heart rate is, because you can kind of know, you can push somebody, say in a beep test, you can push them to their maximum, and you can see when they give up, well, you can say, well, that's probably their maximum. But you can also do simple equations. One real basic one is just 220 minus your age, and that'll, you know, predict your maximum heart rate. But yeah, if you know what somebody usually trains at and what percentage of their max heart rate they're training at, then you can also look at in their testing or in a competition and see where that lies in terms
220 minus their age.
Yeah, it's not the best equation to use.
So mine would be 200.
If you want to call yourself a 20-year-old, then yes.
I have a body of a 20-year-old. How dare you, sir?
Something like that. Something like that. Your hairline might differ, but
hair.
Yeah,
I remember that.
So yeah, so lots of cool things that we can do with heart rate and heart rate variability, and really exciting stuff.
That's interesting. I like how it's something that can help your karate, whether you're just training in the dojo or you're out there doing high performance.
Yeah, just going to the gym, trying to exercise, trying to just become healthier, whatever it is. Yeah. I
think it's interesting when people come in and go, well, my kid's not really getting it, not really doing this. I look at their attendance and go, well, they haven't been consistent.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, it's really hard to get them up in the morning or hard to get them here. And I say, well, the hardest thing is to get there.
Yes.
Once you're there, you just do it.
That's it.
You know, the hardest thing is to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's bring this heart rate monitors in. Let's make it happen.
Oh, you'll see it.
Sunday, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We should bring in the dojo too. I have a few people I'd like to put those on and have a look.
Let's do it.
How many people can you wear? But just for the last question here, how many people can you like 20 at a time, or is it just?
Sure. Well, you can have individual heart rate monitors hooked up to individual watches. But
okay.
The cool thing about the system that I have in my car is you can actually hook up to, I think it's 20 heart rate monitors, just the straps on the chest, to one kind of docking station, which then hooks up to the computer. So as you'll see on Sunday, it'll actually show 20 different heart rate profiles of the people as they go on.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That is awesome.
Cool for, kinesiology nerds like me.
Yeah, but hey, that helps. We got to take that and make sure it's applicable for everybody.
For sure.
You know, how we can make a lot of things better.
Okay, so we're talking a little bit about karate training, just kind of moving into that a little bit, and that kind of goes into what we just said. There's just one real brief thing that I wanted to talk about, and talking a little bit with Rodney. Hey, Rodney, how's it going?
Hey, Rodney, how's it going? Thanks for letting us use your dojo last Sunday.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you very much, Rodney. And me and Rodney have kind of been talking back and forth about putting together a training manual for some of his athletes. And one thing that I told Rodney and that I always tell everybody is when we're training for a specific sport, in this case karate, whatever sport it is, you need to remember the principle of specificity. Now, when we're training, there's all different kinds of training principles, but the principle of specificity basically says that you should train as closely to the competition or the performance as possible. So what I'm talking about here is, for example, in karate, if you're going to be trying to train their rotational power of the torso, if you're going to be trying to do that, we shouldn't necessarily have them sitting on the ground and twisting with a medicine ball or whatever. It'd be best to stand them up, put them into a fighting stance, and get them to twist and turn a medicine ball and throw it as hard as they can at a wall, because that very closely mimics.
We have one of those walls.
We do have one of those walls, rebound walls. They're great. But regardless of whatever it is, if you're trying to train leg power, or if you're trying to train punching speed, punching power, whatever it is, we need to, as closely as we can, mimic it to the actual performance, kumite or kata, and then we can start adding resistance to it. We can use resistance bands, we can use free weights, medicine balls, we can use all kinds of different things. But if the actual movement looks like a karate movement, you're probably on the right track.
That's good to know. I love using our rebound wall and standing in a position like a fighting stance and throwing the ball against it.
Yeah.
No, it feels really, really great. learning how to drive power off the floor.
Yeah.
Rotation.
Yeah. So that's just a quick little training tip for karate. Just remember the principle of specificity.
A long time ago, when people were getting like injured or repetitive injuries in the workplace, it could be anything from like having been sitting down too long or twisted something. There was a place, I don't think it was just one, it may have been more than one, where they built a gym, but the gym was like all the movements you would do in an office or a warehouse.
Yes.
And they bring them in and have them repeatedly do sitting up and down in their chair and turning and stuff like that. And I don't think that was continued for very long, but
yeah, that's an occupational therapist's dream right there.
There you go. Yeah. It was like, we're going to make you do squats from your chair, like, 100 times. We're going to make you twist and turn.
Yes. They still do some things like that as well, more so for insurance purposes now.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so just kind of wrapping up episode 4 of Karate 360. We just want to talk a little bit about the tournaments coming up. So we know last week was the Okinawa K1, and at the end of this month, the World Championships.
That's right. Actually, you know what's happening this weekend, just before we get into that, is the Kokumin Taikai in Japan. Kokumin is like the Citizen Games. It's for adults.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the inter-high for high school. Kokumin is like all the sports invade one prefecture. And so I think for karate, you had to be top 8. Like I think in Tokyo, you had to be top 8 in the tournament. I think they have it end of June or beginning of September. And then you get to go compete in the Kokumin tournament. That's happening 8th, 9th, 10th this weekend. And to win that is a big, big deal because that is an entry for you to the Japan Nationals, which is the first or second weekend of December. So that's happening. We will know from this weekend who gets to go to the Japan Nationals from the winner of that. People who get to go to Japan Nationals also represent from people who've won their prefecture. Actually, high school kids who win their high school division get invited to the Japan Nationals. Same with the university championships. Same with the business person corporation championships. I think same with the self-defense force championships. I have to double check that one. That's like, they don't call it an Army, Navy, Air Force, military. They call it the self-defense force.
Okay.
It's a big conversation about how the Constitution's written. So that's happening. And then, the World Championships. That's actually pretty amazing. Let's find out if there's going to be some streaming, and then we can put that on the website.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the World Championships, October 25th to 30th, a 3-day event in Linz, Austria.
That's right. We've got this one. Then we've got 2018. Then the Olympics.
Yes.
So this is the beginning of the quadrennial, the lead up to 2020. Yeah. So the excitement is definitely boosting. Did you see the new flag we have?
I do see it. Love it.
Yeah, we have the official Canadian Olympic flag that says Can Ada, Can over Ada, with the Canadian maple leaf and the rings. You know what I found out is that flag, from the person who sold it to me in the flag shop, said that all these flags were sent out to all the stores around Canada, and they arrived the day or so after the Olympics began.
Okay.
So they missed the bump for people buying it. People normally buy it in the week leading up.
Okay, yes.
And so that could be the only one on Vancouver Island.
From the flag shop.
From the official, that's the official. When we bought that flag, that is a fundraiser for the official Canadian Olympic team. Because not really supposed to go out and just buy Olympic rings. So that's got the 5 rings on it, right?
Sure, yeah.
And you know how they're like, if I put the 5 rings on our door, they're going to come knocking on our door, as people in Vancouver experienced in 2010. So that's the official flag for the Canadian Olympic team and for all sports, and could be one of the only ones on the island. So it's kind of neat.
Cool.
It's kind of neat. We got it up. Craig Sensei, assistant coach of the Canadian national team, is our handyman in the club, and he hammered and nailed and slapped that thing up for us. So. And we've got spots on the wall still to hang stuff on. So we've actually got some visitors coming over this month to come see Kenzen Sports Karate, just to see how we're designed and how we put things together. So, I'm looking forward to putting some posters up for some of the big tournaments coming up. So
great.
And talking of tournaments, okay, we've got the WKF World Championships end of this month. There's one other tournament after that, the WKF level, isn't there?
There is. In November 21st to 28th is the Junior Cadet and U21 Championships in Indonesia.
Oh, I so want to go to that.
Yeah, in November.
That's awesome. And then locally, here on the West Coast, we have the West Coast Open. Sunday, October 16th in Washington State.
Yep.
This will be my first time to go to that one, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Great.
And they do online registration, so I have to make sure I put that in for some of our competitors this weekend, because I think they give you $10 discount. So we're paying with Canadian money, so that's a $50 discount. So I think it's before the 9th. And then there's the Campbell River Challenge up in Campbell River, October 29th. There's the Saddle Cup in Burnaby beside Vancouver, BCIT, on November 12th. And I think I just saw the registration forms go out for that. And then there's the big one of the year, BC Open.
December 10th.
December 10th, Richmond Oval. That's a one day only. I think we got 6 rings for that one. That's going to be a big deal. What's interesting is the oval is so big because they've got like 8 basketball courts, a 400-meter track, 2 hockey rinks, all under the same roof with no poles in the middle, no pillars in the middle, and the relaying that was an Olympic oval for speed skating.
Right.
So the oval, the actual part of the ice that goes around the entire space, they put wood over top of it, wood floor, and actually now decided they're not going to ever use that ever again as a speed skating space. I guess speed skaters will just go to the oval they have in Calgary. So they're redoing the floor. So while we're having the tournament, I think we get to see a brand new floor in there.
Very cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be even a better space than before. Yeah, that one's happening. And let's not forget Canada Open, June 3rd and 4th, again at the Richmond Oval. That information is coming soon too. But BC Open, we're going to have online registration. First time ever for a Karate BC tournament.
Yeah, that's right.
Using Sport Data.
Yeah.
I think we're listed on Sport Data now, and from next week we'll be sending out the registration forms for the BC Open, and then people can register online. And we'll be doing the same thing for the Canada Open. So that's going to make things really efficient.
Great.
Right on.
Well, this is Karate 360.
Karate 360, San Rokumaru.
San Rokumaru. I'm Kalan Anglos.
I'm Richard Mosdell.
Guys, this was fun. Episode 4 in the books.
A New Hope is very hopeful.
It's very hopeful for more.
All right.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you next week.
San Rokumaru.